Welcome. So my name is Megan Looney, and I'm one of the co-chairs of the Spring Arts and Culture Festival. Thank you so much for attending this event, which is part of that festival. This event is part of a 5-day interdisciplinary festival, and we have events that started on Monday and they're running through Friday of this week. The theme that we are reflecting on in this festival is interdependence. And speaking of interdependence, this festival would not be possible without many people working together, both here at NWAC and at our community partners. And some of those community partners include Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art, Latinx Theater Project, the Marshallese Education Initiative, Bentonville Film Festival, 131 Inclusion Gallery, who worked with us to put this panel together, Trillium Salon Series, Bentonville Public Library, Bentonville Brewing Company, Yoga Story, and Matkins Greenhouse. We especially want to thank the president of NWAC, Dr. Evelyn Jorgensen, who's actually sitting in the back, for sponsoring this specific event. And I want to introduce you to the moderator of the panel, Eris. Eris is the director and curator of 131 Inclusion Gallery, and she's a graduate of Northwest Arkansas Community College, as well as the University of Arkansas. She's a photographer, printmaker, designer, filmmaker, poet, and musician. In other words, she does it all. And she has arranged this panel for us and is going to introduce us to our photographers. Please join me in welcoming Eris and the photographers.
Well, I'm just basically going to read the direct descriptions that we had because they're good. Cody Hammer, to my right, he is an Indigenous photographer. He's a member of the Cherokee Nation and of Muscogee Nation descent. He is based out of Skiatook, Oklahoma. Cody is a member of the Native American Journalists Association and the Society of Professional Journalists, Oklahoma Pro Chapter. He is also a member of Indigenous Photograph, a database of photographers throughout Indian country. Ebony Blevins, right next to him, she actually did go to Arkansas State. Graduate of Arkansas State University, has had her work featured in the Arkansas DemocratGazette, AY Magazine, and Arkansas Money and Politics. She has also been featured in many gallery exhibitions. Ebony has currently gotten recognition for her documentation of the Black Lives Matter protest and her drag performer photography. And Carmen, Carcamo down at the end, her and I actually both went here back in the day, and she's a graduate of Northwest Arkansas Community College, has had her work featured as the cover for Idol Class magazine, and as the best 2 images on the front cover of the Photo Vogue website. Carmen has been featured in many exhibitions. She is a dog lover and a roller derby participant who lives in Springdale, so she's local. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right to left, and I'm going to have you guys talk about your work a little bit. And you should recognize it because it's the 5 images each of you sent me. Right. So, starting with Cody Hammer.
Not that picture though. Okay, well hi guys, my name's Cody. This is actually my wife. It's a crazy story. We were in actually Oklahoma City, and this is, I don't know if anybody's heard of missing or murdered Indigenous women before, MIW. Well, my wife's a big advocate for it. Her and her mom, they run this organization called Noise, and it's supposed to help raise noise for that group. The funny story is that this, I mean, it's not funny, but it is funny. The story about this photo is I'm actually holding a meat pie. I don't know if you know what a meat pie is. It's like a native cuisine, I guess. She's actually holding my daughter as well. I was just holding one hand. I'm actually shooting with a Canon Rebel right here. I just happened to look at her and she looked at me and everybody was looking away and I just took the photo. I don't know why, just, you know, it was like a perfect moment. And just that day was very uplifting because all my daughters were there. I have 4 daughters. Well, I had 3 at the time. I have 4 now, you know. And to see this many people at this thing, you know, for this kind of event, and especially being, you know, they don't realize it now, but they have such a higher rate chance of being taken, murdered, you know, any of that. So for them to be there and see that this many people care, it was a big thing for me to be there to kind of, you know, document it. So This is actually where I live. This is at a powwow. I'm sure everybody here's heard of powwow before, maybe. I know every one of these people. These are all straight dancers. It's a style of dance in the Native community. This is actually at the beginning. Right now they're singing a song called it's like a prayer song, a warrior song. Most of everybody here are Osage or Wajaji. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them. You probably heard the book Killers of Flower Moon. All these people are part of that book. At one point, somebody here, actually this guy right here, his grandfather was murdered. Bates, the guy, kind of taller guy, was murdered back in like the early 20s for his oil money, pretty much. But I was actually here, and I don't know, I just like the way, that it curves. You kind of fall, like you look from here, you follow this way. You look from here, you follow that way. And I don't know, it just stood out to me. It was very strong and impactful, and if you've never been to one, like, it just, I don't know, like everything going on, you just feel, you can't bring any bad energy, it's always all about the good energy. And I know it sounds very cliche, but it is a true thing. And it was just a powerful photo to me, and it's one of my probably favorites I've ever done, even though it's so simple. This is my wife again. It's crazy. This photo is actually the same thing, the skirt. It's MMIW influence. There's a guy named Dante Grayson. He is out of New Mexico. He actually made this. This is a ribbon skirt, and with the MMIW influence. So he does these skirts for people to help represent and show. This is actually at the Tallgrass Prairie in Pawhuska, Oklahoma. All kinds of buffalo are out there, free roaming, no cages, nothing. It's just, and this is actually where I work. This photo was actually shot close to the morning, even though it looks like it's in the evening. Photoshop, Lightroom, you guys probably understand. But I just, this is the first time I ever used a flash, a little off the camera flash, had a little mini strobe, pretty much the cheapest setup ever. Just more or less told her to look at me, and I don't know, my wife to me has a face that she doesn't need a smile. She's very beautiful, but just something about her face to me like this, it just means a lot to me, and it just couldn't have been more of a perfect time, so. This photo is actually back there printed whenever you guys, you get around and check everybody's stuff out. This is my daughter. This is my youngest daughter. This is the new one. Her name is Honor. I don't know if you ever heard, but we have it's called a cedar chest. I'm sure everybody's heard of cedar chest. Well, a lot of Native people keep their regalia in it. So all this stuff is stuff that my wife's made. It's been given, handed down. This blanket she's laying on was her great-great-grandmother's from like the 30s. And we still wear it. Like up there's skirts that wrap around. It's just all been passed down. Of course, some of it's new, like these moccasins are new. But this was actually taken in our kitchen. I just told my wife, let's just set her in there. I don't know, something about all this stuff that's been passed down, like I was talking about like good energy and everything being, because it wouldn't be here, and I think about, I've had a lot of strong women in my life, and I want to continue that, into my daughters. And so I like to implement them in everything that I do, and also their culture, and to me it just makes a big difference, because I feel like now, at this point in time, it's not really made fun of, but it kind of is. And I don't want them to ever be ashamed of who they are. So the best way for me to do that is put them right in it, and so this photo means a lot. My wife is actually standing right here. You might actually see her toes. I tried to block it out. I can't really tell. Maybe it was cropped a little bit. But yeah, this is our kitchen light on, and I'm literally standing right above her with like a 24, maybe a 35. And of course the shirt, I don't know if you guys ever seen these shirts before online. I don't know the person that runs it, but every time I send them a photo with it on, they like to share it. So it's kind of, work for work kind of thing. And also, and this is, her name's Eva Harding. She's from Pawhuska as well. This is actually at the same place my wife was at in Pawhuska. Pretty much, this was just a photo idea that I had a 30-minute break, and we did this probably in 10 minutes, because it takes about 15 to get out to the tall grass. I just told her, I said, hey, just stand there, wear what you want. And she asked, should I wear, something casual or, regalia? I said, let's just go ahead and go all out. We got one picture, got one time, let's just do it real quick. And this was actually done, and this was actually entered into a contest for me. I did not win, but that happens, but I still love it to this day, everything about it. I'm a big portrait person. I love portraits. I'm a big natural light guy, but I've been recently getting into the flash, just change it up a little bit, challenge myself. But all of this is just kind of put together. She would wear this at a powwow. It depends on what she's dancing. This is more of I think this is like a southern cloth. I can't really tell, but everything she has on is handmade, everything. The shirt's sewed, the long beads are beaded by hand. Of course, they probably didn't build the ribbon, but they cut it and everything. Earrings, everything's handmade. So I like to just show that off because this is probably a lot of patterns that you have are your family's patterns, so they're passed on to your daughters, and they keep going like that. So I just thought it was a nice photo of her for her mom. I know her mom. I'm really good friends with her mom, so I thought it'd be good for her. But yeah, so there was really no meaning behind it. I just thought it was a nice photo and a good day to do it. And just like before, it was kind of sunny. I know it looks cloudy, but a little bit of work and, just, you guys probably, I don't know if you've been on any of this stuff, but, you can kind of mix it up somehow. But yeah, and it was good. Thank you.
Ebony's next.
Hi. I've worked mostly, lately I've been working more on cyanotypes, and it's a analog process, but I use digital images to create the images as well. So this is a picture of my friend Anisha, and I was working on I guess I need to get closer to the mic. I was working on a series of profile pictures of my friends, and I would take a picture of her. I took pictures of her kids as well, but I just decided to use her image, and then I just, in Photoshop, just created various layers of it. And I think there's still one more layer too that you can't really see in the print or on the wall. But and then I just, I can't even.
Oh, no,
my mind is like all over
Believe me,
the place.
I already have that, but we're all good.
But yeah, I really created the multiple layers in Photoshop. And this is one of the protest pictures I captured in Little Rock. And all these people are part of this organization called The Movement, and they happen to have the same t-shirt on at the same time. They all stood up there and they were posing for somebody else, but I took the shot too. And I think my shot's better anyway. So this image is a cyanotype as well. What I did was I took the chemistry and then splattered the paper with it. Wherever the chemistry, the sensitizer touches is where it's going to turn blue if it's not covered up by things. And so I splattered the sensitizing solution, and then I put quartz crystals, because I'll go down to the quartz mines in Mount Ida or Hot Springs Village and dig for quartz. And so some of those are quartz crystals, and I just threw them on there, kind of placed them directly into where the sensitizer was located so that it would create this unique image. And so it's just a one-off print with that. Okay, this shot was taken in El Dorado, Arkansas. I don't know if you can really see there's a Confederate statue off to the side over there. It's a little, it was hard to get the dynamic range right for this, especially doing a cyanotype, because his face is so dark and the statue is so bright. So either one or the other had to lose detail. And I was like, the statue is as important as this guy's eyes and face. So, but yeah, they were protesting the statue that day. This was taken in Dallas. And actually, the little girl did speak into the bullhorn as well. I have another shot where she's actually yelling into it. But this one just felt more connecting to. I felt like people would get more of a connection with this image when she looked at me, because when she spoke, she wasn't looking at me.
And last but not least.
And I am Carmen, Carcamo. So a little bit of backstory with this. I used to be a student here at NY. And so when I first started here at NY, I was actually just a art student that actually wanted just to draw, you know, and honestly, it came through a couple of sessions of going to a couple of art classes that was like photography and things like that, that I was like, maybe I should give it a shot and see what, you know, what can I come out of it. And then I started taking photography, but it kind of became kind of a thing that it was like, really like the photography that I wanted to see visually. Because I didn't want to take a photo of just a one random person and, you know, nothing really putting a meaning behind it. So my meaning behind it was I need to start doing storytelling. So that's what I really wanted to do. And for me, this image right here, this is myself, by the way. I started putting myself in a lot of my images to try to see how I can compose an image. Visually, in this, it was actually because timeline, it was more about trying to tell myself that I really needed to speak about my meanings in a lot of my photography. It was everything that I envisioned when it became about nature, something that I wanted to be more passionate about, being in that environment and also telling a story to someone that I felt like meaning for me. But I used to dream all the time, and so a lot of it was like because I felt like I was in a dream. That's why I wanted to start telling people like I saw myself in a dream, and that's how I saw myself in a dream. And then I started like experimenting a little bit more, meaning started collaborating with like fashion photographers or like fashion designers and stuff like that. And so I wanted to start telling their stories as well, like whatever they had, like either their textures or like clothing, I wanted to see how I can incorporate that with my photography. And so that's what I became to start doing and, you know, start telling a story with that. This one right here was also another friend of mine. Most of these people are really just like wanting to collaborate with me. So I usually just ask them, hey, would you like to take a photo with me? And then come up something creative. Either their passion, which this person right here actually loved doing aerial silks. And so she loved, like, she's so beautiful when she became like, for some reason, this person in like the aerials and stuff like that. And so I asked her to take a couple of shots with me. And I just started collaborating with her. But a lot of the times it happens in my, you know, editing. So how I see it in real life may not make any sense. I'll just ask her to post, and then I'll be like, in my editing, Photoshop or whatever, and then I, you know, start thinking ways of how I want to make this appear to someone. So yeah, and then this is one of my latest work, and this is actually with another fashion designer here locally. And so this is actually shot in my house, inside. The only thing that I'm experimenting in here is actually the lighting. At first, I think what drew me into it was the dress. And so her dress is like stars and like very like dreamy feeling to it. And so I asked her, I was like, if she'd be down just to, you know, like collaborate with her and then just come up with something. And sometimes I would be like, I have nothing towards the shoot. I'd be like, I don't even know what's gonna happen. But then I start, you know, visualizing like what that can, you know, portray to someone. And so like, either it'd be like some sort of like dreamy feeling to it, and that's really what I go for. So that's what it is. This one right here is also experimenting. A lot of my photographs are actually experiments. Either I'm trying to like create something that makes sense through like the Renaissance era, and then also what makes sense to nowadays. So I kind of want to play around with a lot of like textures, editing, lighting, whatever, and to kind of go back to like painting, because that's really what draws me into it. It's just like a painting, you know. That's what I'm doing. I'm just creating. That's it. To
talk about the theme a little bit, since our theme here is interdependence. We don't exist inside of a vacuum. How do you think that interdependence has informed you and your art, and how do your friends, family, and community add to that?
Well, for me, I think it goes back to when I was saying that, for anybody really, because, to not be ashamed of who you are, especially, I don't know, I'm Cherokee and Creek. So a lot of Cherokees now are, there's some that are a little bit of, lighter skin, this and that, but that still don't matter. You know what I mean? You are who you are. And so, like I said, I'm trying to have my kids understand that. If you've ever been hesitant about learning about, where you come from, your people, there's no shame in that, because it's who you are. So I feel like with my style, adding a culture in and contemporary and everything, I just feel like it brings that to light firsthand for people to see. And then I grew up in Fayetteville. I went to Rainey. They were the Indians, right? So it was rough for me to see the Indian mascot just running around and nobody knew, you know what I mean? So I just feel like what I do and my kids see that I'm trying to get them to understand that, hey, don't take the back burner, you know what I mean? Like, just be you, encourage other people who don't know or are afraid to explore and understand that where they come from. So I just feel like in my art, I want to try to be able to bring that to people, because I'm still learning. I still learn every day. I grew up around it, but you still learn. It's just like everything. And then like being with these guys, you learn something new. And I just feel like as people, especially Native people, and we just learn from each other, because that's how we're going to keep our culture going. That's how we keep everything moving forward. So I know it's not really right on it, but that's the best way I can explain it.
That was a good explanation.
And for me, my work, a lot of my work more recently is like dealing with going out and documenting the protests. And whenever like the George Floyd protests began, I felt a sense of responsibility to get out and document, my own perspective of what was happening, because only through my camera can people see what I saw and and I can control the narrative of what I saw in various times. And I wish I had gone to so the first protest I shot was back in 2001, and it was PETA protesting at the Stevens Building in Little Rock. At the time, I was still working at the DemocratGazette, and I just kind of did that on my own. And then in 2006, whenever the Jena, Louisiana protest happened, I went down there for that as well. And it was so many people, and people don't realize how huge that protest was, because it was literally like hundreds of thousands of people. Like, you look down the street, see the sea of people. And I haven't really posted those pictures, but I need to go back and post those. But then whenever like the Ferguson protest happened in 2014, I was too scared to go to Missouri for that. I kind of wish I had gone, but it's okay. Once the protest was in my own backyard, then I was like, okay, it's time for me to get out and document this. And without the community, I wouldn't have this work. So I try to be like mindful of people. I become friends with people and build a good rapport with people, so they can call you like, hey, we have this action going on, can you come out, or whatever. If I find something out, then I'll let them know as well, so that they can bring more people out. It's just really, for me, I'm really tied to the community, and the community helps inform my work, especially dealing with the protests and things. But other than that, I just really still try to portray Black people in the best light possible, because people don't always show a lot of like Black joy or anything like that. They usually show a lot of struggle and sadness or imprisonment and things like that, and that's not what life as a Black person is all the time. So yeah, that's how it works for me.
So for me, I would say, going back to the storytelling aspect, just like getting involved with like nature inspires me a lot with it. So like anything that, like if you go into the park or something like that and you start walking, like you kind of see visually like what nature looks like, but do you start thinking back, do you want to tell a story with nature? You're gonna have to, like, you know, create it in your own way. And that's really what I always, in my work, and it shows in there. I get very inspired by that kind of aspect, like the galaxies, like things like that, like goes back to it, and like water, you know, like whatever it is that's, that you can make it magical for yourself and to try to tell a story with someone else.
It's awesome. You know, I had a pretty intense question about process, but all three of you have already described your process, so we're just not gonna ask that one. So, what is a crazy bit of information that people wouldn't expect about you when they first meet you? Tell us something unique or weird.
Random?
Yeah.
That's my life.
I don't know. Well, I had never touched a camera until about 3 years ago. I have never. When I was in school, and I'm sorry to anybody, I was that kid who's like, oh look, they think they're Peter Parker. You know what I mean? And now it's what I do. You know what I mean? But that's also changed my mind, because I was just this football athletic kid, you know, and so I would just say that I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, I'd feel bad for saying that, but I just, you know, I was that, you know, that kid, and now I do it, and it's been 3 years of fun, and everything I do, I enjoy, and I like it because my kids see that, and they see that, hey, I don't have to just do what I think I'm gonna do. Things can change, you know, and I mean, I don't know where I'm at now, and I was driving here thinking, dang, I haven't been through Tawnytown in 10 years. I'm like, 10 years ago, I was dropping out of college, and I was working in a factory, you know what I mean? I had no idea that I would be even taking photos, you know? So it was a very random thing, but it was like a coming home, but like knowing I'm a different person,
Yeah.
and more appreciative of the art that's there, you know? So not really anything random about me, just random thoughts, but you know, yeah.
Here's a stark contrast. I started taking pictures when I was 8. I started with a 110 camera. I started in 4-H with and won my first like award at age 12. I did a photo essay on a day at the zoo in the Little Rock Zoo, and I still have it. It's framed on my mantle. I had posted on my Instagram a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, I've been shooting like professional. My first page in was in '97, and I'm sure a lot of you all weren't even born. I feel old. But and then another random thing is I worked at Disney World. I was in the Disney College program for the Millennium Celebration. Okay.
So I guess for me, I would say I'm into like I don't know, maybe this is a lot of information, but so death to me is beautiful, and that's how I see it. So I don't see it as a bad thing. I don't see it as like, oh, you know, you're gonna die one day. But no, like I think when I see it that way, like, and a lot of times my work can be very sad, and it's okay, to show that kind of emotion. And I think that's really where, as a photographer, like that's what speaks loud to me, and I want to be able to show that emotion to you guys or anybody who's seeing my photographs. So yeah.
Admittedly, that was not the answer I expected.
Yeah.
So, awesome. 131 Gallery, my gallery. We're all about promoting inclusion and diversity. What are some ways that you think the world could join in this venture? What are some ways of promoting diversity and inclusion that you wish you'd see? I mean, there's this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, us, yeah. I guess just more of a understanding of people, and because you've learned it this way doesn't mean that it's that way, you know. Especially coming from an indigenous perspective, you know, we're very put in a box, you know, and we're way more than that, you know. Going back to what these guys said, like, you know, like, or what you said about how people just see, they only look at I guess the bad, you know what I mean? Like, we're more than that, you know,
Yeah.
we're not just stoic, we're not just,
Right.
you know, we're everything. I don't know if anybody knows any Native people, but we love to laugh, you know, like,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
just what we do, you know. If we're not picking at you, we probably don't like you, you know, and, yeah, it's just really that, just the understanding that, accepting people for what they are and what they want to be. And, I mean, because it doesn't bother you, why, you know what I mean? Just, you know, and understand and let's live together.
So education.
Education, yeah, you know, and appreciate the differences in people, you know.
And see, I think that people need to have more, be open to have conversations, the difficult conversations. Everybody, you know, there's so many people on Facebook that have, or just social media having all these arguments, and nobody really has a face-to-face conversation, because if you have a face-to-face conversation, you wouldn't probably say such toxic words to people to their face. And then you will also be able to open up your mind a little bit more to be able to empathize with the other person as well. And so it's just really opening up to these conversations and giving people a chance to air, you know, what they go through without feeling like they're going to be like dismissed or anything like that, or just looked over, you know, because that's another thing, is like, just because you didn't experience it doesn't mean that it's not real.
So for me, I guess coming from a Hispanic background, I would say that oftentimes my family used to teach me not to show any emotions, and I think for me, photography was something like an outlet for myself. So I guess I can say that, you know, that kind of helped me guide my emotions to something that made it more meaningful for me. And then my family started seeing that, and then they were like, "Oh wow, that's amazing," you know. And so they kind of dive into that, and then they ask me questions here and there, and I'll just be like, you know, I was feeling this and that, and I was angry, but yeah, here we go. So yeah.
Awesome. That was almost too serious. If you were granted a superpower or wish, what would it be?
Well, when I was a kid, I was really big into, well, I'm still a kid. I don't know, I always wanted to be a Jedi. I know that sounds crazy. That was me, you know. Some of the first movies I ever watched was with my dad, and it was Star Wars, you know, so that's my connection to it, you know. I watched those, I think, with my dad. So, and that's what I always wanted to be, because he thought it was cool. So I was like, you know what, that is cool, you know. And I didn't, you know. But I think that's where initially my creativeness came from, you know, seeing things like that. So, but I would say that, and I don't know, I always thought being able to fly would be cool, you know, just because. But I hate heights, so it doesn't. So that's what I got.
See, for me, the power I would love to have is to be able to touch a person who isn't being empathetic or compassionate, to bring in that feeling of compassion, to be able to empathize with other people. Because so many people, like I said earlier, they close their minds off. And just being able to bring empathy to the empathetic. You know what I'm saying. Bringing empathy to the unempathetic and compassion to the incompassionate.
So I would say time travel for myself.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Try to time travel different, like, I don't know if there's like something like that, but like different dimensions. That would be really cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll change your mind.
I know.
Now you're done with Jedi. I get it. What is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given as an artist? And maybe you've never been given good advice as an artist.
I guess not really advice, because I'm still fairly new to it. I just got really lucky because I've had a lot of people believe in me and I guess push me, you know, and side of, I feel like, and because I come from a family that's very blue collar, country kids, so like she was saying, when I started taking photos, my parents were like, whoa, what's going on here? And so I guess not really so much advice that I got from somebody, just that people believing me and saying, just try. I'd rather try and fail than never do it, So it was one of those things that just got, motivated from it.
For me, as a photographer, the best advice I got was, actually, I was shooting a boxing match, because I do sports photography as well. And I was asking the photographer, so what do you think about, what camera do you have, and which camera is the best? He's like, whatever camera you have in your hands is the best camera to have. And so just use whatever you have, make the most of what you have, basically. You don't have to have the newest, shiniest, whatever, most megapixels, mirrorless, all of that, just work with what you have and make great art with what you already have.
Great advice.
For me, wow, there's so many things, but here's one that really has stood out for myself, was just continue to create at whatever age you're in. Like, it don't matter what age you are, just continue to create anything that you want to create. There's really no timeline. Myself, I have a full-time job and anything, but there's always a time where you can just continue to create without having to see it with someone else's expectations. You just do it for yourself.
It's good advice. Where do you hope to see yourself in 10 years? And I hate this question. I'm glad I'm the moderator and not being asked the question, because I have no clue.
10 years. Well, like I was just talking about going 10 years ago, I didn't see myself being right here. So in 10 years, I don't know. I've actually been exploring a lot of different options with work. So I hope, and I have things going on right now that I can't tell anybody about, I'm sorry. But I hope to still be doing this, I'm sure I will be. I don't think I'll ever let it go. But hopefully I'm still doing this and just happy doing it. I really can't tell. It's hard for me to look that far, but still doing this in some sort of way, just older.
For me, 10 years from now, I would love to be an art basel and have, my work go for top dollar, but, that's, that could be next year or it could be 10 years from now. You just never know what connections are being made. Right. And I hope, I'm learning about blockchain and NFTs now, and I hope that will, take off in 10 years. Really, I hope to be one of the people around here, well, not around here, but around Little Rock, to help teach people about NFTs and blockchain and things like that, and be in a place to help others grow from that as well.
Yeah, back to that NFT. Yeah. That's where I was going to.
Yeah.
Maybe in 10 years, that will be one thing that I look forward to. But as far as even, if it wasn't like that, I still want to be able to have just, share the knowledge to anybody. Because honestly, I want to say that a lot of the times my artwork has been kind of on and off here and there. But if you just continue that growth, it's just going to make you a better artist at the end of the day.
So, you were talking about, money with your art, and I'm not sure how many people are actually budding artists out there, but probably a few. What factors influence the price of your work? I mean, how do you price your work?
Oh God.
Yeah.
Time.
Honestly, I think the very first photo I sold for $50. And before that, I was doing everything for free. I was doing everything. I did a lot of stuff for free. Way too many probably.
Yeah.
But now, I don't know. I think of when I was a kid getting photos, I thought, man, it was so expensive, you know. So now I kind of just reasonably price what I think, but I also like the photos of that lady's daughter. I'm like, she deserves that photo, you know. So, and she'll pay me for it. So I just don't want to go way over, but I also know what my work is worth. But I also know that she does too. You know what I mean? So it's very tough for me. Just because everybody that I photo, I have a personal connection to, you know, and of course my family, I give them a lot of photos, and, you know, but that's because I like to. It's my niece and nephew, you know, my sister. I feel like she's going to want those, you know. But I guess just the factors, you know, what I would say is reasonable for me. Time, of course, time is a big thing. Travel is a big thing. But I've been luckily and fortunate enough that I have not run into a problem with people ever disapproving of what I was asking for. Yeah, so, and it's kind of one of those things that, you know, your work will speak for itself and people will pay for it. And they'll pay pretty much, not anything you ask. I don't know if anybody's doing photos now, but just be reasonable and you'll find your way on it. That's what I'll got.
Yeah, and for me, it's like, you want to price it so that you don't feel like,
It's so hard.
it is.
I know.
It's like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, there's
Because like looking at my art, I'm like, I want to price my stuff. But a lot of times I feel that way, but I just, you know, I try to price it so that I feel like I feel comfortable with the pricing, and I don't feel like I'm getting screwed over for it. That's the main thing. It's feeling like you're not getting screwed over, where you put a whole lot of time, different, you know, struggles. Like for me, with my protest work, I also went to Portland too. I'm risking my life, running away from the police, you know, while I'm trying to take these pictures, or not even counting, you know, the pandemic and being out and risking my life during a pandemic as well. And I try to include all this into the pricing, and it's still so difficult, you know. So, but you have to set your own value, because if you don't set your value for your own work, nobody else will. And if you don't take the value of your work seriously, then nobody else will, and they won't appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree with her. As far as that, definitely the time. I mean, I can say I spend a lot of time just on Photoshop, experimenting, you know, creating however I feel like it looks for that. But it's just really, it goes down to how, you know, how meaningful it is for you and what you want to, you know, share with the world. And then also, you know, the time and all the other stuff, but it has to speak to you, definitely.
I mean, and I know for a fact that yours, like the framing cost and the printing cost. I mean, when you're printing at that size,
that's
that's some money.
That is.
So I mean, that has to factor in there too.
Yes.
So, what do you like and or dislike about the art world?
Oh God.
You know, just to let everyone know, I did send these questions like a while back, so.
I forgot.
I did. I did read them, but I was like, I'm just gonna wing it, because if I try to go scripted, I won't say
You know, like this, like.
right. You know, I think since I'm still fairly new into it, I don't really know, but my main goal at the beginning was that I didn't want to be very cliche-ish, you know. I always wanted mine to be different. I didn't want to be like anybody else. Now, I did get inspiration from people, and a lot of times I did copy, but I was inspired by the way they were seeing it, you know, and I kind of had my own twist and everything like that. So I guess just, I don't know, like I don't really, right now, I'm still fairly new in there.
You don't like the cliche?
I guess so, right? You know, like I'm very dark and moody, you know, and I just have own style that I think, and even in that, I have like there's sections of my style that its own section in that genre of styles, if that makes sense. I sound like I'm rapping, I'm sorry. But I was like, so I guess just like the cliche of it, the one thing I got one now you got it, is that it takes work. Like a lot of people have, like to myself, I think of having like a natural eye. It wasn't until recently I've been identifying myself as a photographer, and just because like I feel like when I say that, I feel like I'm like halting myself from learning. But once I started doing it, I was like, you know what? No, now I have more confidence into it, because having a confidence of not failing. And I'm like, well, I can't fail at something that I see and I love. It's my vision, like she was saying, so I can't be wrong in that. So really, I guess the fault of people saying, oh, you don't have it, or oh yeah, it doesn't look good. I just think I wish people would be so negative towards other people's art. So
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and for me, it's like, I'm still trying to figure out my path in fine art, coming from a photojournalism background. And I'm still trying to figure out my path, because sometimes people consider photos art, and sometimes people don't. And so that's why I started with cyanotypes, because then, you can create some of these pieces that are just one of ones, and it's just exclusively just that print, and then, it's art or whatever, but photography is art as well. And so I'm still trying to figure out my path with that. The main thing is like being put in a box is what I don't like.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a black artist, I'm a black, and yes, I am a black person, a black female photographer, but, that's not the totality of my work. It's not just like black people. I do all kinds of, I've done wide ranges, from doing a shoot in a steel mill for the training video for the Newport Model Steel in Blytheville, which that was a scary and thrilling experience all at once. But to like even doing daycare pictures, which I don't like doing. I don't like that, or weddings. No more weddings.
No weddings.
No more weddings for me. But yeah, it's really just the being. I don't like being put in a box and feeling like the exclusivity. Well, whenever people are exclusive with art, the art scene, making it seem like people of color can't do fine art. I hate whenever, that's one thing I really.
Yeah, those people are wrong.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're right.
So for me, I guess it goes with her the same way. I feel like if they're labeling as a photographer, and they may have so many different meanings as a photographer, but then your own thing is like a fine art, like that's really what you want to do. So I also am one of those people that is guilty that I don't enjoy doing photos for like weddings and things like that. But sometimes I'll jump into something more of a collaboration, and that can be exciting for me. And I mean, I'm not saying no to it. I'll just still do it just because I still want to have the experience, and maybe even like create a story behind it as well. So that's just my,
Okay, I think we've got 25 minutes left, and I think we could start taking questions, because I don't want to not take questions.
Speaking about time, with your work, so time taking a picture versus time editing a picture, which one do you spend more time on, and which one is more fulfilling?
Ooh.
That's a lot of questions.
That's a good question.
That is a good question. Well, for me, man, I can literally I can do a session in probably like 15 minutes. Literally, I can show up as long as I'm ready. I think it goes back to like kind of understanding what you want, your composition, everything. But I really enjoy editing. I love Lightroom, everything about it. And now that I've gotten more into it, I've created presets for myself. I already know, this makes it even faster. I get in Photoshop every now and then, but I mainly use it to mimic stuff, take stuff out, you know, blemishes, whatever. But of course, I love taking the photos I do. But man, when I get in Lightroom, it sounds weird, crazy to say, but I really do like editing photos a lot, just because it's crazy how, you know, like I changed the whole. It was morning, you know, and it looked evening, you know, and I know they're very similar, but you know, and for me, the editing is really, really fun. I enjoy it a lot.
For me, it's like, I love, especially like in protests or sports or anything like action, I love waiting for that moment and then capturing that moment and freezing it for forever, you know? And then going back, once you go back and edit your pictures, you look through, it's like, oh my God. Now I see why I thought that was spot on right when I took it, you know? You look for that one sweet moment right then for that amazing shot. And that's, I mean, whenever I actually capture that shot right then and know that it was technically sound, technically, you know, done well, composition, all of it, like everything lines up. That's what I live for that moment, is that capture.
So for myself, I would say definitely the editing. I do spend a lot of time editing. I think I get more creative when I'm like late at night doing projects like that. I enjoy that kind of like aspect of like colors and things like that. So for when I see it in the screen, it like inspires me to like keep going into like what I want to create in itself. So definitely on the editing part, that's where I'm at.
Well, and I mean, you three are three totally different kinds of photographers.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you can look at your work and see the amount of editing time that goes in.
Right.
And personally, I could say that I completely get the whole, like, it just going into editing mode and just hours slipping away,
Yeah.
because it's wonderful.
Yeah, well, like she said, at night, you know,
Yeah.
like, for me, I'm a morning person, but just at night is when I can really, you know, I put on my headphones and just turn on like some kind of instrumental soft, you know, and just go, you know, and then when I go somewhere, when I take photos at places, even though I said 15, 30 minutes, my finger's constantly on the shutter. I'm just there all day, you know, and yeah, I know, it's crazy.
I thought I was trigger happy.
Yeah, no, I'm very, just because a lot of times half of my photos I ever shot, it's usually the one that I didn't notice that I like the most.
Sometimes, yeah,
You
that
know,
happens too.
and like I said, with my wife with the hand, right, that was unexpected. I was eating at the time I took it. I'm literally holding it like this, eating, and I just was like, of course it wasn't a mirrorless camera, right? So I just held it like that and took it.
Oh, wow.
So if it landed on her, it landed on her. It just happened to land on her, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's great. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I'm curious about limited edition prints, and if any of you do that, and what type of considerations that come into play when making that decision.
So I would say for my work, a lot of the times I won't even like make any print unless if it's something like either a gallery or somewhere where I'm gonna put it out there, like big for everyone to see. So I definitely have more limited, you know, in that sense. But then there's also the aspect of whether you want to have like a gallery in your own like website or something like that you can, you know, have smaller versions of the bigger prints, you know. So that's where my, you know, cup of tea, I guess we can say, it'll fall into it as far as prints.
And I do some, since I do cyanotypes, I do like limited edition runs, and I'll reprint, you know, several versions of, you know, prints, or like with that splatter one, that was composed on that sheet of paper, and so that's a one-off on that one. So I'm still trying to get my feel on limited edition prints and things like that. So I'm still learning.
I guess with me, because I do prints, but I don't print them myself. I'm kind of like Carmen, like I hardly ever print anything. It's crazy to be taking photos, and I only have a few photos in my house. You know, I mean, of course, of my kids and stuff, but still, right? And I did have a website that I started doing stuff on. It just got to where like I wasn't ready for the workload of it, I believe, you know. And my website was just kind of trash, so it needed a lot of work. But I could put a lot of time to it, you know. And so I did get a few prints off of that, and I did do like, you know, 5 of one photo that I did, you know. And it kind of goes back to the NFTs, you know. I'm doing like certain editions for things because I've been in NFT for about 2 months. And I've been doing it, and it's been going really good. So that's what I've been really busy with. So I haven't been able to get to my print stuff. So, but that will be coming. Just, you know, one of those time things. So.
Any other questions?
So I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about the artists or other photographers who have inspired you. Is there anybody who's really inspired your work or that you look to for influence?
Yeah, so for myself, since the beginning actually, since I was here in NY, I was inspired by Brooke Shaden, and she's like really, really good at dark photography, fine art, obviously. And then also Ms. Aniela, she's like a fashion photographer. She does a lot of like what I do in surrealism. So surrealism photography is what exactly like inspires me and everything. But she does a lot of with like dresses and makes them look like the scenes that comes off of the dress or something like that along the lines. But those are my 2 favorite ones.
And for me, I love the work of Roy de Carava, who did a lot of street photography and worked with like Langston. He did a book with Langston Hughes back, I don't know what year exactly, it was early 1900s. And then also, like, more recently, one of my mentors is Jamel Shabazz, who did a lot of hip-hop photography. Whenever hip-hop was just starting in the 70s and 80s, he was out documenting the whole culture of that through, you know, the subways of New York or just the streets of New York, and he still is doing it. Like, whenever VH1 used to have, like, the hip-hop specials, he would be one of the people that they would interview because he was out there documenting that work. And so, yeah, they're 2 huge, I can't even think of the word now. My mind is laughing. Two big influences for me.
For me, since I'm still fairly new, I know I've said that like 5 times. But I mean, because all these guys might be new, you know, so, but like I learned everything from YouTube, everything I've done. And I follow 2 guys, Peter McKinnon, I don't know if you know who Peter McKinnon is, and Alan Palander. They're good friends, they're both from Canada. I guess that's kind of where I got my style from them, even though mine's not really like Peter McKinnon's, but mainly the other guy. Because everything in mine, I take a lot of blues out, and take greens out. And if it is in there, it's very deep. So that would mainly be my only inspiration because I'm actually, I think, the first digital artist in my family. You know what I mean? So, of course, I have people that make, you know, the regalia and stuff, which that's art in itself, you know, but I'm pushing a button, you know, and so I would say those 2 guys, because, I mean, from camera basics to editing, like, I'm getting a Premiere Pro now, like, everything, you know, they do a little bit of it all. So if you get a chance, I would go check their stuff out on YouTube. They usually have really good stuff from 4 years ago till now. So.
And let's take one more question and then do the raffle.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah.
How did you get the courage to post your artwork about sensitive subjects like your background and family history?
Do you want?
Oh,
It don't
go
matter.
first. I'm trying to think of
Yeah,
that.
you're good. Well, I guess I didn't really see it as sensitive. You know, for me, it needed to be heard. You know, just because, you know, being like the minority of everything, you know, especially living in Fayetteville, you know, I would tell people that I'm Native American. They're like, huh? They didn't believe me, you know. And like, there's literally, we were talking about this, there's a Trail of Tears walk right in front of Fayetteville High School. If my grandparent didn't walk on that or died, I would not be here, you know, forced removed from North Carolina, Tennessee. So it really, yeah, it did take some courage, but at the same time, I knew, like you said earlier, it needs to be said, you know, so it just, you know, and taking chances, like, you know, if nobody liked it, well then, maybe they are the problem, you know, so, just one of those things.
Oh, and for me, I just, if it touches me deeply, then I know it'll touch others, and so I just put it out there, you know. When I was in school at Arkansas State, I was there during the time of like that school shooting back in '97, and I was able to go to like the memorial service, which was at Arkansas, it was on the campus and stuff like that. But I just didn't know how, back then in college, I didn't know how to approach, you know, more sensitive subjects. And now it's just like, I just try to put my work out there so that other people can connect to it as well.
So I guess for myself, I've done photo shoot where it could be getting very like deep with, you know, like a storytelling that I have to do, or it can also be like nudity or something like that that is very sensitive. I honestly, for myself, I found it like beautiful, so I don't see any problem with it. I also try to just like pose different angles with the model or anything like that, so that it also shows a different side of things. But it's, for me, it's like like I said, I don't really care what people think about my work. And I'll just say it flat out, because that's just really how it is. And I think that's how I progress too, in a lot of ways, because I just don't care. And I just do it. I do it for myself.
One other thing is, like, I had a friend who passed from breast cancer, and I had done a shot of her breast that was, you know, reconstructed or whatever. And then after she had passed, I had posted the picture, and her family was upset that I had posted that picture because they took it as, you know, they sexualized it, which it wasn't that at all. And one thing I wish I had done is gotten direct permission from her, you know, in writing. Even though I had verbal permission from her to post it, I just took it down because it was causing such a ruckus with them. It was so triggering for them. But if any sensitive subject like that, I would say get stuff in writing to be able to post it so that you can be protected legally from that.
Yes.